Watch this.
Early morning as always at the state capitol, but this morning we sat down for breakfast with the legislative leaders. Lots to talk about, including what's needed to wrap up the session.
Some sideboards around this thing so it doesn't turn into a whole Donnybrook.
Them's fighting words. The debate continues on the Idaho Launch Program, intended to get students into needed careers in Idaho. But some lawmakers have questions on what are these careers and where do you draw the line? Every day is something to celebrate, right? Well, one Idahoan is celebrating the day, marking her 107th year on Earth. It is the 7th day of March, so pretty early in the year 2024, but late in the legislative session, maybe? We got some insight on that question earlier this morning. Members of the Idaho Capitol Press Corps, including myself, we sat down with legislative leaders from the Idaho House and Senate. And the indication from leaders is that the goal is to have the session wrap up by the end of the month. Specifically, Friday, March 29th is the target date. It's also Good Friday. Maybe it will be. All right, whatever. Anyway, no matter what it is, though, lawmakers have a lot of things to tackle before they call it a sine die. But in the Idaho House, there's been some frustration in recent days about the pace of legislation, things getting held up. We've seen requests for legislation to be held on the calendar or moved all the way to the bottom. And we get the feeling from some lawmakers that they've had enough waiting. They want to have action. So I asked leaders in the House for their perspective on this.
When you have big issues, you keep doing the lobbying. That lobbying's going on. But get to the point when it's on the floor, you need to move forward. Some of those bills, too, will have follow-up bills that will replace them. And that makes it tough, too, but they need to move faster. And that was kind of what you saw. You guys, it's time to move. We want to shut this thing down. We got to get moving. And that's why you saw the majority leader's comments of either ready or not. And if not, we're going to move it far enough down that we don't have to worry about it going forward.
I think they're very controversial bills that probably, in some instances, may have some very serious legal problems. So I think it was probably prudent to give a little bit more time to figure out, are these even constitutional? What unintended consequences are they going to have? I'm good with that. I'm good with more attention being paid to bills that may have real fallout.
So the only thing that lawmakers have to do before they go home is pass budgets. So we will see how the rest plays out. The goal, again, is to be done 3 weeks from tomorrow. Now, an interesting topic that we saw Republican and Democratic leaders essentially agree on this morning, legal guidance from the Attorney General's office about proposed legislation. So traditionally, under the previous administration, lawmakers could take a proposed bill to the AG's office, whether they wrote it themselves or somebody else, and they would basically ask for a legal opinion on it, or what would the challenges be legally if this piece of proposed legislation became law. But lawmakers say that, the previous AG administration under Lawrence Wasden, they got that done without much problem. They tell us, though, that the new administration under AG Raul Labrador, they operate differently. Lawmakers discuss the realities that it presents.
We are doing the best job we can to guess in the dark, Google, try to find law school interns to poke into this stuff for us. It's not a viable situation right now, and we're going to be making mistakes unless we address this. So I am profoundly unhappy with the current status quo. Right now, I think we're operating in legal darkness, and it's a real problem.
There are discussions that go on, and he does provide information, I think, to members when they ask questions.
Senator Winter summed it up well. We're getting along really well with the Attorney General. We're talking and things are moving in the right direction. There's just this hiccup on the opinion issue. And I would assume that if it's not resolved soon, you will see that bill come out and it will probably pass this time. That puts a time limit. So because now it's very bipartisan, the concern about not being able to get some help from the AG's office.
So the Attorney General's office in Idaho Code, they have the responsibility of giving the legal opinions and the legislation that Speaker Moyle talked about. We kind of put a time constraint on that, so we will follow that. The idea was also tossed out this morning that maybe some legal experts could be shifted from the AG's office over to legislative services. So I reached out to the AG's office on this one. I wanted their perspective, and a spokesman gave me a really detailed and extended explanation showing their perspective from a much different angle. Statement tells me in part, quote, "We have responded to 36 legislator inquiries in 2024 so far, sometimes orally and sometimes in writing, and they will get to more soon. The AG's office also outlined the issue from their perspective, saying that our office will provide a written opinion and/or oral consultation about a bill for a legislator who is a sponsor of the bill. Historically, opinions of the Office of Attorney General were regularly requested by legislators who were not a sponsor of the bill, and then that opinion was used as a weapon to defeat bills in committee hearings and on the floor. Statement goes on to say that the practice is not appropriate. AG's office goes on to also explain that if the Office of the Attorney General issued a formal written opinion identifying some possible constitutional issues in a bill, well, that could undermine their ability to defend it later on if lawmakers pass it, and they essentially would have ignored the AG's opinion. So we'll see if lawmakers continue to push this issue. Popular government scholarship program could be getting some big changes this year. Idaho Launch narrowly became a law a year ago, and it grants scholarships to graduating seniors that are pursuing in-demand careers. It's 80% off tuition. That's capped at $8,000 per student. But some say that the program is too broad. So a bill to redefine what in-demand careers is, it made it out of committee today. But State House leadership says that they have concerns far beyond semantics. Here's Andrew Bartline.
One of the biggest bills from last legislative session found popularity among the populace.
Kids talk about the importance of this scholarship and just the fact that they have it.
Government scholarships for in-demand jobs capped at $8,000 each.
I guess a helpline here, I guess, is okay to...
And while Senator Lent left his glasses in office,
They look good.
he's here today to give Idaho Launch a closer inspection.
So essentially, you're looking at this as narrowing the scope of what the previous language might have allowed.
That's exactly what we're trying to do.
Currently, in-demand careers are determined by the state's Workforce Development Council. State statute guides the rankings with two factors: the number of openings and projected job growth.
When you take those two variables and look at the data, you can come up with some odd combinations. An example is a waitress would show up as an in-demand job there.
Lent's legislation redefines the factors of an in-demand career. It would include positive economic output for the state and transferable skills. Careers needing a master's degree or higher would be eliminated from the program too.
Kind of back to like, if you build it, they will come. So we're trying to build the path to these high return careers for our students in Idaho.
But the concern about launch goes far beyond definitions and language tweaks. It passed the House last session by a single vote.
Put some sideboards around this thing so it doesn't turn into a whole Donnybrook.
Speaker Moyle opposed it and still questions the panel behind the program.
The Workforce Development Council, which is 36 people, only 2 of which are elected, giving them $80 million to do this is a concern. That there's some concerns that there ought to be some legislative oversight.
But as it stands, Idaho Launch is state law. The program exhausted its funds entirely through year 1.
And that's why it's successful. There's a giant need there.
One that Lent says could use a little fine-tuning.
And what can we do with that little bit more of education to really give them a leg up in the workforce?
But none of it matters without the dollars to boot. The legislature's yet to fund it this year.
They are, but I, of course, am on the Finance Committee. We fully funded the governor's recommendation on this going out, so now it'll be to the House and the Senate to approve the funding.
Can you guys not fund something in state statute?
Well, that's a good question. It cannot be funded, but that doesn't mean it's not in statute. So what would happen is we'd have to go back and figure out a way to fund it in some sort.
Lent's bill to more narrowly defined an in-demand job had a few dissenting in committee. There wasn't much of a discussion, but Senate committees like to voice vote, so it's tough to tell exactly who opposed it. Maybe 2, maybe 3. He says the intention is to ensure that jobs that could include healthcare workers, engineers, welders, that those are given priority when you look at the language of what an in-demand career is, and then the function of awarding those scholarships, they award it to those fields. But the big piece here is Idaho Launch is law. It costs $80 million a year, Joe. That's something that you would think has to be funded because it is state law. We'll see how it actually shakes out. That answer was a little ambiguous. Can you fund something or not fund something in state statute? We could, but then we would have to later. It'll be fun to see how it shakes out.
Fun's definitely a word for it. I am interested, though, based on the conversation in terms of the in-demand careers. I guess is there concern that money would be going to kids and they would be going into careers that Idaho doesn't need?
I mean, it was brought up that maybe somebody could shift their career. They get that launch scholarship because I'm going to go be an engineer, and then they change their mind and they're like, I think Joe's the coolest guy ever. I want to be a journalist. I don't know if that's happening, but it seems that there was a concern that maybe it was.
If your kid wants to be a journalist, let us know. Okay, thank you, Andrew.
I ask unanimous consent that House Bill 520 be returned to the Judicial Rules and Administrative Committee. There's a replacement bill for that.
The original no public funds for gender transition bill, House Bill 520, was pulled and replaced by House Bill 668, which had lengthy public testimony this afternoon in committee. The bill says that taxpayer dollars in Idaho should not and won't be used for medical treatments and surgeries for changing the appearance of a person's sex if it's not consistent with their biological sex. Many against the legislation said that it singled out one group who needs this life-saving care. Critics say that it isn't up to lawmakers to decide what medical care should and shouldn't be covered.
On the other end of the scale, I would feel lots better about myself if I had long flowing hair and I wanted hair plugs. So in that scale there, I'm trying to put where gender affirming procedures would fit, because I see it more towards the hair side, in my opinion. I want some clarification there.
This is where I think it becomes dangerous to legislate medicine when we should be leaving it to the medical experts. I think a doctor can decide when something is medically necessary.
Many for the bill argued this isn't going to take away this care. It's just not going to be paid for by their tax dollars. House Bill 668 passed committee with a do pass recommendation. We'll follow it as it goes on to the House floor. Okay, one of the more unique bills that we've covered this session is House Bill 522. Yep, that's the one on cannibalism. Representative Heather Scott got the idea from a prank show and thought that cannibalism might be normalized in Idaho, people being fed things that is human flesh without them knowing it. So she wanted to amend Idaho's cannibalism law, which already outlaws cannibalism, but she wanted to expand the definition to include anyone who willfully provides the flesh or blood of a human being to another person to ingest without that person knowing. And Representative Alana Rubel had some enticing words during debate.
Thank you. I'll be brief. I know we're all very hungry. We've had a lot of meaty bills today that we can really sink our teeth into, so I'm just going to nibble around the edges of this one. Truthfully, I'm really not sure this bill is fully cooked, because I think the instances of secondary fraudulent cannibalism in this state are really rare, or at most medium rare.
Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I object. I object.
Good lady from 2.
This is
from 18.
very serious topic, and I understand it can make people feel uncomfortable, but I don't think making fun of this situation is a good thing. It is a crime in Idaho, and we're just expanding that criminal definition. So,
good lady from 18, while we enjoy your humor, try to be okay.
I will briefly wrap up. Just one final note. While I would prefer this bill were served with fava beans and a nice Chianti, I understand the lady's just trying to take a bite out of crime, so I will give this my green light.
Okay, so she was voting in support of it. So there you go. And yes, the fava beans, the Chianti, that is a Hannibal Lecter reference. This is serious, though. Representative Scott is correct. I don't think any of us would want that to happen. But this passed the House. It'll now head to the Senate. Okay, super interesting development. We're actually finally hearing from Thomas Creech, and that's the man who's been on Idaho's death row since the mid-1980s. He admitted to dozens of murders, but we heard from him in a unique social media post. Sophia Bliss explains it in today's 411.
The Ada County coroner identified 26-year-old Maximilian Myers of Boise as the man shot in the stomach early Tuesday morning at an apartment complex in Boise. He was taken to the hospital where he later died. 24-year-old Javon Harmon of Delaware was arrested and charged with second-degree murder. We still don't know if they knew each other.
Just got off the execution table on the 28th of February. They punched me through 4 holes, but I'm still kicking.
New video of Thomas Creech from what appears to be right after his failed execution. It was posted to an Instagram account that shows videos of inmates in Idaho. Inmates have access to cameras and are able to record videos. KTVB has reached out to Creech's attorney for comment. Tree Fort kicks off on Wednesday, March 20th, but if you just can't wait until then, the Record Exchange's annual Tree Fort warm-up party is tonight. Head to the Record Exchange at 5:30 for the free event. You can also enjoy live music by Dirt Fisherman, free cans of Boise Brewing's community-supported craft beer, plus a raffle where you can win a 5-day Tree Fort pass. It's part of the annual Tree Fort First Thursday Window Walk, showcasing all the Tree Fort window art around town. And that's the 411 on the 208. I'm Sophia Bliss.
Well, geez, they needed a special delivery of candles to Caldwell. That's right, Canyon County is counting to 107 for a very special birthday celebration. We'll take you there soon. Something else we should head to, or maybe something we missed? Tell us about it, or really anything about the program. Here's our phone number, 208-321-5614. You can send us a text right there, and please include your name and hashtag the 208. We're going to get to as many of these as we can live at the end of the show. All right, let's set the scene. The year is 1917. Woodrow Wilson is president of the United States. The United States is in World War I. Women actually couldn't vote. And Juanita Seibert was just born. Today, we got to celebrate her 107th birthday with her and her infectious laugh.
I thought you answered it. Hello?
Hi, Grandma.
Yeah?
It's Chastity.
It's Chastity.
Oh. Well, honey, I'm being interviewed right now.
Okay, well, call me later. I just wanted to tell you happy birthday.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
I love you.
I love you too, honey.
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye. I was born in Marshall, Nebraska. And then I came to Idaho in 1946, and I've been here ever since. The best thing. Mm-hmm. Maybe when I met your dad.
Yeah. That's what I was going to say.
I cook a lot, and I love to bake cakes and things like that. I see today I don't have to bake one.
No, we got a birthday cake over there. Someone brought it.
Anyway, but in that family, I had an uncle that lived. Well, he lacked a month of living to be 100, and that was on my mother's side. And and then some of the others, they lived for quite a while too. And so I think, but with me, I think it's just good genes, and I never drank or I never smoked, so that helped. And just the way I was raised. I have 9 grandchildren, but and I don't know how many great-grandkids I have.
Yeah.
About 40, probably.
Yeah.
40-some. When my great-grandson passed away, when he drowned, I just thought, I just loved him, so he was so loving. and so precious. When I go, I hope that I'll be able to see him again. I enjoy all of my grandchildren. I love them all. And even those that maybe aren't perfect, but who's perfect? I know I'm not.
Oh, Juanita, thank you so much for your time today. So, okay, we've got some tips from Juanita. She says no smoking or drinking. That is her hack for health. So that might be tough for some of us. But if you were wondering, that was her daughter Sharon sitting right next to her. And Juanita told us she plans to celebrate again this Saturday with more of her family. All right, we got some of your comments and questions ahead still.
After a very snowy past few days, we have more of the sunny and cold temperatures continuing as we go through tomorrow, but we will see a return of some of the wetter weather. So we have more sunshine expected tomorrow. Here's the catch, though, that we could see some more of the fog linger in the morning hours. The good news is it should linger a little bit less than what we saw today, but we will see some light moisture move in late on Saturday, looking very, very light. I wouldn't be too surprised if it shifts towards that Sunday timeframe. But things still staying on the light side as we go into Sunday. Expected to be valley rain and mountain snow. And then Monday, that late night snow and rain continues into the early morning hours of Monday. Then we get a bit of a break during the daytime on Monday before that returns in those evening hours. So that's what's going on for the next few days, but let's talk more about tomorrow. So we've had a lot of the day today was shrouded in the clouds, and so you can see that we're expecting more of that sunshine tomorrow. So it's a good idea to soak that in while we have it, because the weekend is looking a little bit more on the foggy side and cloudy side. The clouds return on Saturday, and you can see the temperatures are going to stay on the colder side as well. There is a warming trend. It's just not warming up too much. Low of 33 is expected on Sunday, but you can see throughout your 7-day forecast that more of the 40s are on the way and 50s are on tap for Sunday.
All right, let's get to some of your comments, questions, thoughts here on a Thursday. This person says, AG Labrador is trying to be a politician when what is needed is a lawyer. Wish we had Wasden back. That's from Toby. Yeah, Toby, it's an interesting topic, this opinion situation. I can see it from both sides. The frustration from the lawmakers who want answers on their opinions, and then the worry from the AG's office is, well, if I give an opinion and it ends up in court, I basically have to argue with myself. So we get that. This person said, the laws that attack on trans people is making my teen suicidal, even with therapy. She feels personally threatened every day and does not think she has a right to exist. The lawmakers should serve, not single out people. That's from Tony. And Tony, yeah, we heard that today in committee from people within those communities. It'll be interesting to see what lawmakers do with that. This person says, I hadn't had such a good laugh watching the news as I did tonight. Thank you, Representative Alana Rubel. Yes, thank you, Representative Rubel. You were in the debate for the best debate of the year. So maybe we'll have an award at the end of the year. And then, yes, one more happy birthday here for Juanita. She turned 107 today. I never drank and never smoked. I'm afraid I may not make it to 107. Yeah, well, we'll see you tomorrow.